Hello, my name is Tattwa Gyani. I'm known around here as TG. We're at School Farm on the Dartington estate and we're going to plant 15 young apple trees. So these trees are what's called feathered maidens. They're 2 years old and as you can see, some of them have lots and lots of side shoots which are called feathers. Some of them, like this one, have very few side shoots, just little stubs. It doesn't matter what they're like, but we need to do different things in terms of the formative pruning, which you'll see later with the two types. So all fruit trees are grafted. They have to be because the fruit doesn't come true from a seedling, because like us, they need two people to fertilise, and you always get a cross between the two apples if you just use the seed. So here we have the place where it was grafted, and this will now have been 2 years ago, probably in February. And the graft should be, as it is here, about a third of a metre, no, a bit more than that, from where the roots come. So this is called rootstock, this part, and this is the variety. As you can see, we're planting bare-rooted plants, and these are very well-rooted. You can see how long the roots are, so hopefully they will do very well. There are various different types of rootstocks according to how large you want your tree to be eventually. So the one we're using today is called MM106. This is what's called semi-vigorous or semi-dwarf or something in between. And it will produce a tree which will grow not the very highest, but you know, probably 20-25 foot eventually, but it will take quite a while. The varieties we've chosen are Ashmead's Kernel, Kidd's Orange Red and Adam's Pomain. These are fairly late ripening apples which we'll store. They are chosen partly because they will all flower roughly the same time, and that's really important for the pollination. If they flower at different times, because they need at least two other varieties to pollinate, then it doesn't work very well. And we're going to space them out so that they are kind of muddled in our row. If you put them all together and they flower earlier, then the ones at the other end of the row won't get pollinated. So now we're coming on to the actual planting. As you can see, we've cleared the turf from roughly a metre square around the space. We've started digging our holes. Now we've done square holes, and this in modern thinking is quite important, because we don't want the roots to go round and round in a circle. We want them to spread out as soon as possible. And if you have corners, they can find the corner and then they'll hopefully go through the corner into the surrounding soil. So as you can see, the roots of this little tree are slightly wider than the actual hole that we've dug. What you can do, and it's actually quite beneficial, is to just prune the roots back a bit. This stimulates baby roots, which are the ones that actually do the feeding. These bigger, thicker ones don't absorb very much nutrients from the soil, but the little tiny ones do. So I'm just going to take back a little bit on these long ones, you can see here, and possibly a little bit there. And then we'll plant it like that. So we need the top roots here to be roughly level with the soil. At the moment it's a little bit low, but I'm going to jiggle it up in a minute. As you can see, I've spread the roots out into these corners, which I've actually sort of increased the corners for the roots to go into. So that gives it the best possible chance, A, for stability, but also to spread the roots out. So we're not going to put any compost inside the hole before we plant. If you do this, the roots tend to stay within the hole rather than searching for nutrients outside the hole, and they can go round and round because they've got lots of nice compost to eat, as it were. So now we have the roots just underneath that top bit of soil there, and the tree is pretty well upright, and I'm going to firm it down quite vigorously.
Lovely trees, aren't they?
So now we come to the initial pruning. Lots of people think that you shouldn't do anything with the trees once you put them in, that you should just leave them, but that's actually mostly a mistake. The first thing to realise is that this branch here, this lower one, will always be at that height. It won't move up the stem. So eventually all these smaller branches will have to disappear because we want a clean, clear trunk eventually. But if we were to take them all off now, we wouldn't actually get many leaves on the whole tree, and we need lots of leaves for the tree to photosynthesize. So the last thing to do with this tree, because it's quite tall already and we want the branches to start, well, probably down here somewhere, if we chop the top off, then these shoots here will sprout and we'll start to get side branches. So I'm just going to do this little one now. So the same treatment here. All these shortened ones are called drawers because they help to draw the sap up. You want the sap moving up as strongly as you can. So we're doing exactly the same thing all the way around. And then next year there'll be more little shoots up here. Again, eventually these will all come off, but year by year we take out the lower ones. So we might take out 3 or 4 of those next year and then cut back the ones that are up here until we get to our desired height. Now this one actually hasn't got to the height, so we're going to leave that top as it is. So having planted the tree firmly, it needs a good watering in. I've got 2 cans here. Ideally it might be even more, but we're right up in the top of the field, so watering is a slight problem. I'm just going to leave that to soak in a bit and then give it a bit more. It's most important with these young trees to keep them well watered. So in any dry spell you need to check the ground and probably water them all. Another good 2 cans worth. Don't just dribble little bits, give them a thorough watering and then leave them for a while. And if the weather's very hot in the summer, then do the same thing. Lots of trees don't succeed in their first year or look sort of poorly and don't grow very well, and one of the main reasons is that they are not watered properly. So we've decided not to stake these trees. Modern thinking is that if you let the trees wiggle and waggle naturally in the breeze, as long as they're not actually rocking with the roots moving in the soil, then it's a good thing. It stimulates the roots to deepen into the soil. We're obviously going to have to monitor these to make sure that they don't rock in the summertime especially. But we're going to show you where to put the stake and how to put it in. So you'd put a stake on the windward side of the tree, and we're going to put this in at an angle, roughly 45 degrees, and about maybe half a metre or a bit less away from the tree. You'll need a decent tree tie to really stop the tree from rocking, but not to make it too tight. And obviously these need checking periodically throughout the first year. If the trees were on a steep slope, for instance, or if there was a lot of wind, or if both those things are true, then it would be a good idea to stake the trees from the outset. So we're going to do some little experiments to do with mulching and not mulching. Most of the point of the mulching is to stop any competition from the weeds. So some of our trees are going to get different applications. Our first application is cardboard and wood chip. So I'm just going to put the cardboard round the base of the tree, and then I'm going to put wood chip on top of it. One thing to be careful of is not to put too much stuff against the actual stem at the base here, because you don't want too much moisture there. They can go get something called crown rot, which basically kills the tree, so not a good idea. So you keep your mulch away from the main stem. The point of the wood chip is mainly just to keep everything in place, and eventually, of course, it will rot down and feed the tree. So this tree we're going to put some mypex down, which lets the water through but stops the weeds coming up. And we're going to cover that with some more wood chip. The only downside to the mypex is that the voles love to sort of hide underneath it and make all their little burrows and tunnels, and that can destabilize the tree, and of course they can also eat the roots. So it sort of swings and roundabouts. It does a lot of good, but it can result in some damage. So in the midsummer we're going to come and have a look at all these and take it all up and see whether or not the voles have been having a go at them or not. So I'm going to put the mypex strips down, one on each side. Now, layer of wood chip. Probably do with a little bit more wood chip on that, but we can do that later. In my experience, this keeps the weeds at bay for a very short time, and you end up with almost as much grass very soon as you had before. But we need to have a comparison, so that's what we're going to do. So this one we're going to do absolutely nothing. So we're going to leave it bare, see what grows, as a comparison again with all the others. Now we're going to show you how we made our guards, and I'll explain later why we chose this method of guarding the trees. basically there are a million different ways in which you can guard your trees. You can make wonderful parkland wooden fancy things, or you can go cheap and cheerful like we've done. We have deer here, not enormous ones, but quite a lot. So we wanted something that's quite tall. The point of these rather flimsy structures is that the deer can't either put their feet up on them or rub against them too much, because they won't take the weight, so they tend to leave them alone. At least that's the theory. But it's sturdy enough to keep them out and to keep the rabbits out particularly. So now we've finished planting all of our trees. They look quite smart. We're going to come back in the summer and assess how they're all doing. So we'll see you then.